The materials that we'll use for lifting are primarily, oopsie, the brush and the alcohol in the lidded container. I also have a napkin down here which I'll use to tap off the alcohol just to make sure that I don't have too much on there. Additionally, I have some cotton swabs. This is the pointy cotton swab and the regular cotton swab, the cotton ball, and the alcohol ink marker, which has some good uses and replacement of the brush in certain circumstances. The first tool that we'll use is the cotton ball, and this is used primarily to remove very large swaths of ink. So the times you might want to do that are to lighten a whole area, such as the sky, to clean up if you did some masking and you had a very large area that needed to be cleaned up, or if you, say, changed your mind and wanted to put in a different ink color, it's often a good idea to remove the ink color that's on the paper first. So in order to use the cotton ball, I'm going to dip it straight into the alcohol and squeeze it out. And I'm going to try to clean up around the edges. You can see there's a nice smooth passage in the center. So we'll use this to try to get rid of the ink that's on the outside. And what we'll see is that it did stain a kind of a green color. I'm throwing away any of the cotton balls as soon as they're dirty. So the result of our cotton ball lifting is that we did clean up the edges of this main passage, but we were left with quite a bit of staining on the paper, and in different colors really. There's some gold, there's green, there's kind of a warm pinkish brown. Next we have the cotton swab. From our texturing exercise, we know that we can make little dots or bigger dots depending on how much alcohol we use. But we can also use the cotton swab to lift out a fairly large area. I'm going to make a square here. The benefit of the cotton swab is that you can put a fair amount of pressure on it. I'll just go over it one more time just to make sure I got the most amount of ink I can off. See, there looks like a little bit more I can get off. So the big thing to be aware of here is to not put too much alcohol on the cotton swab. Otherwise it will expand beyond the lines we had intended. The pointy-tipped cotton swab allows us to do essentially the same things as the regular cotton swab, but with a little bit more accuracy on the tip. So I'm going to make a little ring or square around this one, and I'll try not to use too much alcohol. The majority of the lifting I do is done with the small brush, and we can use it, it's really just like painting. So we're dipping it into the alcohol, tapping it off onto the napkin here, and I'll start to just draw some designs. And as you can see with the very small brush, you can get some very delicate little lines. If you have alcohol ink markers, you can also use them to create your lines, and you can just draw on it. This is a fairly light colored one. And an advantage to the alcohol ink marker as opposed to the brush is that you can put a little bit more pressure on it, and you don't run the risk of getting too much alcohol on it. So what happens if you do use too much alcohol? Essentially, it will dissolve outside of the area that you had intended. So let's say I was going to draw a daisy. I'll try it over here. And I'll start with a fairly controlled center. And I'll do one petal with relatively the right amount of alcohol. Maybe another one here. And then let's say I forgot to drop out the ink off or the alcohol off the brush. With too much alcohol, it starts to expand. Now in this case, kind of looks nice. But now you can see we've expanded over the center, and it will continue to expand. So at this point, the lifting techniques look fairly simple. I'm going to go ahead and label them so I remember what I did. This middle one was the cotton swab. This was the pointy swab. The area around here was the cotton ball. This one was the brush. This was the marker. And this one was our example of too much alcohol. Presented in this form, the lifting techniques look really very simple, very straightforward, and they are. But as far as ink painting goes, you can do amazing things with these techniques. Certainly you can make entire paintings that have a very delicate demeanor to them and really showcase the beauty of the inks that are underneath it. So we'll be exploring that further.